I feel it's a fantastic privilege and honor to be in this great hall and communicating with you tonight about something that I find tremendously exciting. So I think I was here 25 years ago maybe, giving a talk. Much water has elapsed since then. So, as this picture suggests, for countless ages we've wanted to know more about our relationship with the universe. The quest for knowledge and understanding is one of our most profound instincts. Something is shifting at last in our species, which has completely lost its connection to a deeper ground from which it has emerged. Like the Sleeping Beauty, the soul of humanity is stirring to life. As this deep soul impulse gathers momentum, the marriage of our rational mind with our long silent soul is beginning to change our perception of reality. We are beginning to remember that we are cosmic beings, incarnated here on this planet for a purpose, aware of our essential unity and our evolutionary responsibility towards the planet. 2,500 years ago, there was a Greek philosopher called Thales of Miletus who proclaimed the all is alive. But this awareness was lost when nature was split off from spirit in the three patriarchal religions. It was also lost as our rational mind became increasingly detached from our soul. In the recent edition of Resurgence, Glenn Parry predicts that one day scientists will discover that everything in the cosmos is alive, just like they are discovering that everything is interconnected. That is precisely the discovery that I'm presenting to you in my talk tonight. As a Jungian analyst, I'm interested in what lies below the surface. Not only below the surface of the conscious mind, but below the surface of matter. Because, as I now realize, mind cannot be split off from matter. So in this talk, I've drawn on a course in unified physics that I completed earlier this year, an online course run by the Resonance Academy in Hawaii and developed by a physicist called Nassim Haramein and his associates. Unified physics offers us a different vision of reality to the one offered by reductionist science, confirming that we live in a universe that is conscious, intelligent, and alive, where everything is connected to everything else. And this is the principal theme of my book, The Dream of the Cosmos. And although I had a chapter on science in it, I've now got the proof that I actually lacked when I was writing that chapter. So I've been thrilled. I was so excited and so thrilled to find that it was supported by this science. And I wanted to share, just like when one was excited about someone, one wants to share it with as many people as possible. And indeed, the Academy said, take it out and proclaim it to all the world. Although they said, don't do it yet, please, because we've got a film that we're preparing. So the new understanding of our profound connection with the deepest ground of life could have a powerful influence on how we live our lives, how we relate to the planet, and how we interact with each other, recognizing that our every act and even our every thought has an effect on the underlying intelligent field. So this talk is about reconnection with what lies beneath the surface of our lives, reconnection with something extraordinary that has been forgotten because of the long separation of spirit and matter. This new science shows us that spirit cannot be separated from matter. We are part of an immense field of consciousness which sustains not only our world, but the entire cosmos. Owen Schrödinger, who was a very great scientist, said this: I consider science to be an integrating part of our endeavor to answer the one great philosophical question which embraces all the others, the one that Plotinus expressed by his brief, "Who are we?" And more than that, I consider this not only one of the tasks, but the task of science, the only one that really counts. Now, we've had three avenues through which to pursue our quest for knowledge and understanding. One is through religion, another is through science, which in our secular culture seems to have replaced religion. But there is a third way, a direct way, known to contemplatives and shamans of every culture for thousands of years, which connects our human consciousness with the deep ground of cosmic consciousness. This third way has consistently revealed that the universe has an inner life as well as an outer form, and that we live within a sacred cosmic order of reality. 96% of the universe is invisible. When we look out at the starry night sky, at the great galaxies and the planets of our own solar system, we're looking only at 4% of the universe. 73% of what we do not see is called dark energy, and 23% is called dark matter. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN started up again April 5th of this year. $13 billion has been spent on it so far. By smashing protons together, it is currently trying to find the elusive particles that constitute dark matter and dark energy. The standard model has not so far been able to answer the questions, what is the universe made from? Or what is dark matter that is apparently holding the galaxies together, and dark energy that seems to be expanding the overall size of the universe? The science of unified physics gives us a new story, and this is what's so important. The proof that the whole universe is a unified field. We live within a cosmic web of life which underlies and connects all forms in our universe. Every atom of life interacts with every other atom. None of us is truly separate from others, nor from the greater life of the universe in which our lives are embedded. So first, we need to understand the field, what it is and how it fills all space. Beneath the universe we see is an underlying field or matrix, like a fabric woven of energy, or a lattice, or a web of inconceivable dimensions. There is no such thing as empty space. Space is full and it's absolutely seething with energy. Now, scientists use different names to describe this underlying field or matrix, and it is called space-time as well as the following names. As you already know, I'm sure, the quantum vacuum or the quantum plenum, the implicate order, which was the phrase used by David Bohm, the zero-point field, the ether, which was a term used by Einstein, the Akashic field, which is used in Indian cosmology, dark energy and dark matter, and the sea or ocean of light, and finally the Planck field, which I'm going to talk about shortly. Now, an astrophysicist called Bernard Hayes tells us that the electromagnetic quantum vacuum is a form of light. It is an underlying sea of energy that permeates every tiny volume of space, from the emptiest intergalactic void to the depths of the Earth, the Sun, and our own bodies. Our world of matter is like the visible foam atop a very deep ocean of light. I think that's the most marvelous statement. This vast field, matrix, or fabric of space-time extends over the whole universe. This is Nassim's statement. We can't see this field, but we are an intrinsic part of it. Dark energy and dark matter are synonymous with this underlying field. Imagine it as a vast integrating network that is imprinting all information holographically and fractally instantaneously. Nassim is a most charming man, I may say, delightful teacher. He also says that we can't separate consciousness from this field because the field itself is consciousness, imprinting, exchanging, and transmitting information every nanosecond. Consciousness orders and organizes the field and its complex interconnected systems at all levels, and the evolution of the universe itself. We are part of this stupendous organization of energy. We are part of that consciousness. Now, the entirety of space-time is full of fields, from the electromagnetic field of a single atom to that of each single cell in our body, to the heart's electromagnetic field, and to the fields of the Earth and the Sun and the 100 billion galaxies. The whole of what we call space is full of electromagnetic fields of different magnitudes, all interacting with each other. Now, in the dynamic of each electromagnetic field is that it's polarized, but it is one field with two polarities interacting with each other. If there were no opposite polarity, there would be no movement, and this applies to all the multiplicity of fields. This is an image of the electromagnetic field of the Earth, which has a toroidal form. And here is an image of the electromagnetic field of the heart. Each one of our hearts extends from 8 to 12 feet beyond the body. So if you think about your body, you're extending practically to the end of the row. Each one of us is interacting with the fields of everybody else's field. Our heart is connected to all the vital organs of the body, which are also tiny fields. And in the adult, the electromagnetic field of the heart is 500 times more powerful than that of the brain. Yet how little attention we pay to the heart. It's really the key to everything. This is the second point, that the third point. The universe consists of vibratory oscillations. The basic particles in the field are oscillating and vibrating inconceivably rapidly, so rapidly that there is no apparent space between them. This electromagnetic oscillation is the ground state of the universe. And this continuous oscillation is so rapid that it makes matter appear to us as stable and solid. So beneath the stability of our bodies and this room and the floor and the building is this state of oscillation. Isn't that amazing? I think it's extraordinary. A physicist called Paul Davies sums up this extraordinary fact in these words: "The universe is not a collection of objects, but is an inseparable web of vibrating energy patterns in which no one component has reality independently from the entirety, and included in the entirety is the observer, which is ourselves." Now I come to the importance of protons. So first we have the field, then the electromagnetic fields within it, then the underlying oscillating state of the field, and now we come to the particles, which constitute the fabric of all fields within the greater field. And this is one of the most fascinating aspects of unified physics. Within the atom are protons, and all space-time, or the so-called vacuum, is made up of protons. We are made up of protons. Protons, in turn, are made of infinitesimally small oscillating units called Planck Spherical Units, which are 1 billion trillion times smaller than a proton, just unimaginable. So all so-called matter is made out of protons and these infinitesimal Planck units. I should perhaps say that the Planck spherical units are named after Max Planck, the scientist who in 1900 named the quanta of quantum theory that were later understood to manifest in space-time as both wave and particle. There are 100 trillion cells in our body and 100 trillion atoms in every one of those 100 trillion cells. Each one of these atoms contains a proton, and each proton holds trillions of Planck spherical units. Sort of mind-boggling. Connect this astounding fact to the number of cells and atoms and protons and Planck spherical units in the universe as a whole. The next thing to understand is that in quantum physics, all particles are connected to each other and to every observer in the universe. All these Planck units, protons, atoms, and cells are connected to each other, forming a stupendous field of energy that is in a continuous state of oscillation. They produce a holographic structure with very specific ratio relationships and a dynamic wormhole-like network which connects all points across all scales, generating a connected universe. This universal network system is a fractal learning structure in which each point is learning from the whole, and in turn the whole is informing each point. This is just so incredibly interesting. I hope I'm communicating my excitement. I have no scientific background whatsoever. I was no good at maths, and I'm really very cheeky to be presenting this. Now we come to the holographic principle and the fractal nature of the universe. A fractal is a type of pattern that repeats at all scales. Since we see similar geometries and patterns at vastly different scales in the universe, fractals can teach us how these scale layers interconnect. The mathematics of unified physics depicts this with remarkable precision, showing us that the scale gradient from the tiniest to the largest dimensions of the universe is inherently fractal throughout. I'll return to this later. Holographically, every proton has encoded within it all the information from every other proton in the universe. The information of the whole is therefore present in each point. This holographic and fractal feature of the universe is best illustrated, I think, by the beautiful Indian image of the net of Indra. All beings are connected with each other through this net. Each jeweled point in the net represents a soul of an individual, yet it contains the souls of all others in the manner of a hologram. This model of unified physics reveals the beautiful elegance with which the cosmos unifies matter, energy, and information into a fractally harmonized and holographically synchronized whole. So we can't really separate so-called inanimate matter, animate self-organizing systems like plants and animals, and self-aware organisms like ourselves. All may come to be seen as integrated components of a continuous evolutionary path of information or consciousness, growing and unfolding through what we call time. Now I'm coming to a few quotations from different scientists. David Bohm was one of the greatest physicists of the last century, sadly not given the recognition he merited. This is one of the most important statements he made that was included in the teaching of the Resonance Academy. We have reversed the usual classical notion that independent elementary parts of the world are the fundamental reality, and that the various systems are merely particular contingent forms and arrangements of these parts. Rather, we say that inseparable quantum interconnectedness of the whole universe is the fundamental reality, and that relatively independent behaving parts are merely particular and contingent forms within this whole. I've put some of these quotes on my website under the heading An Alternative Vision of Reality, because I think they're so important. And here are some other sentences from his book, which was called Wholeness and the Implicate Order. In his view, the explicate or visible order of reality manifests out of the deeper quantum ground that he called the implicate order. And he said, the universe is an undivided wholeness in flowing movement. The true ground of all being is the infinite, intangible spirit that infuses all living beings. And the amount of energy in 1 cubic centimeter of empty space is very far beyond the total amount of energy of all the matter in the known universe. These things are almost ungraspable. They're so extraordinary. I think because this is a difficult idea to grasp, yet it could become the basis of discovering a totally new form of energy. And this is something that Nikola Tesla nearly did in 1902. but his papers were confiscated by the FBI, and his laboratory was forcibly closed down. And I think he must have gone into a deep depression. I don't know what happened in the end. He was forcibly prevented from developing this new and incredible technology, which might have saved us from the disastrous effects of fossil fuels. There are many scientists in different parts of the world, including Nassim, who are working on the possibility of extracting limitless energy from the vacuum, in which case we could each have our own little generator or whatever it is, little box in our house. We wouldn't have to depend on the electricity companies. We wouldn't have to have the big oil companies going up into the Arctic. It would be a total revolution in our way of living. And Nassim was tremendously excited by this in imparting it to his students. So I have another friend in Sweden, a recluse, brilliant man who is a mathematician and a philosopher. Years ago, he had an awakening experience of the oneness of everything. And he's written a book called The Theory of Everything, some of which is on the internet. And this is what he's written in that book. It is from the formless that the entire relativistic world of form emerges, like waves and currents on and beneath the surface of an ocean, never separate from the ocean itself. This union of form and formlessness is the ocean of consciousness, the center of which is love, the divine essence that we all share, providing the cosmic context for all beings in the universe, including all of us human beings. And here is another quote from him. Consciousness is ultimate reality. Physical universes and their components emerge from consciousness. All beings in the manifest universe are related to each other, never separate from God, nature, or any other being for a second or for an instant. He's nearly driven me mad because he keeps sending drafts of his book, which he asks me to look at and correct and all that sort of thing. And I said to him, I can't do any more, Paul. You have to do the rest yourself, or get some editor to do this book who's more skilled than I am. So Amit Goswami, who is another physicist, has published a number of books, and he states in his Self-Aware Universe that consciousness is the ground of all being, and quantum physics makes this as clear as daylight. I chose that beautiful picture to go with that quote, because it's so beautiful and because it seems to connect everything together. So this is Nassim's definition of consciousness. Consciousness is a dynamic of the interchange of information at the cellular, atomic, and Planck field levels. The field is informing us constantly, and we are informing the field. The field is expanding. The entire universe is aware of itself and is exchanging information. Now, Erwin Laszlo, who's written more books than any other human being, writes in his latest one, which is called The Immortal Mind, the brain does not produce consciousness, it transmits and displays it. And another distinguished psychiatrist called Ian McGilchrist, who I'm sure you know, who wrote a wonderful book called The Master and His Emissary, said the brain is a transceiver of consciousness. And when I was preparing this talk, a friend of mine in Glasgow found this quote on the internet and sent it to me. It's from a South Korean scientist called Dae-Jen Song, and he's put up on the internet this sentence: the brain and consciousness are linked together, but the brain does not produce consciousness. Consciousness is something altogether different and separate. The math does not lie. That was his final sentence. And Nassim finally, looking for consciousness inside the brain is like looking in a radio for the announcer. He's got some other ones too, which I haven't put in. So the implications of these statements are huge, because with the new science proving that the brain is not the origin of consciousness, the whole edifice of materialism collapses. It also leads on to the question, What happens when we die if the death of the body isn't the end of consciousness? And I just, in my talk this afternoon to the people who in our group, I was giving them a different view of what happens after death. I shall soon find out. So Nassim Haramein suggests that as we extend our awareness to the entire planet, the feedback loop with the underlying field is extended and amplified. If we could extend it to reach the galactic level, we would get more feedback from that level. In other words, nature, matter, energy, the quantum field all communicate with us, and it's high time we began to communicate with them. The more conscious of this we are, the more they will communicate. There is constant interaction between the quantum ground and its manifestations. Now I would like to return to the Planck units, because the foundation of unified physics is the Planck spherical unit. And Nassim has given us this diagram of what it might look like if colossally enlarged. So it has a spherical form. It is an electromagnetic oscillator. It is the smallest unit of matter. He said to compare it to the smallest kind of pixel on your computer. Untold numbers of these electromagnetic oscillators constitute the ground of the material universe. And compared to the size of a proton, the size of a Planck unit is like a grain of sand compared to the size of the whole universe. Can't take it in. The proton is covered with countless trillions of these tiny Planck units, both on its surface and inside it. Nassim gives us this diagram of the proton, with the Planck spherical units both inside it and covering the outside. Whereas the proton is about 20 orders of magnitude larger in size than the Planck unit, the Planck unit is some 19 orders of magnitude, about 10 billion, more massive than the proton. It's hugely heavy, which just seems incredible. So the whole universe is vibrating in a gigantic electromagnetic field. Everything that we see around us, all of nature, the earth and the sun, even black holes at the center of galaxies, are made up of minute Planck spherical oscillators, collectively organizing in coherent structures in certain regions of space. This lattice of oscillating Plancks completely fills all apparently empty space. And all of the protons inside us are made of these minute Planck oscillators that constitute the field of information that is our body. But this field of information is connected to all the other fields around us through the protons. Mass is actually the energy generated by the minute electromagnetic Planck oscillators in the structure of space-time, creating an energy event that we identify in space as energy or mass, and that becomes the foundation of our reality. Although space-time appears continuous and smooth at the macro level of our perception, it is granular at the micro level of the Planck scale. The structure of the proton at the Planck level, at the Planck scale, contains the information of every other proton holographically encoded inside its volume. The proton surface is entangled with all the others in the universe through Planck-sized wormholes in the structure of the vacuum. These wormholes are fluctuating vortices that are spinning at the speed of light. As well as the oscillation, these vortices are also spinning. And they're spinning and connecting with each other through the wormholes that are themselves rotating. So the whole thing is just a mass of rotating movements. And the spin of the proton is what creates a gravitational field, according to Nassim. I can't go into gravity because I'm not experienced enough to talk about it. So each proton is connected to all others through the wormholes that act like network cables with instantaneous transmission, resulting in all the protons in the universe being connected and synchronized in a superconductive cloud network that updates instantly with every change. It's a bit like our computer and storing our information on cloud, I thought as an analogy. The proton has been continuously spinning for over 13 billion years, and the spin of the Planck spherical units has fueled the spin of the proton throughout this time. The surface of all the protons added together equals the surface of our universe. Now, this was a tremendous discovery of Nassim. He found that the vacuum divides. He shows this in a video, which is, I can't show you, I'll have to take it from this diagram, but he found that the vacuum divides into very specific units at set mathematical intervals, and the divisions between these data points are very close to the phi ratio of 1.618. This absolutely astounded him that it was so mathematically exact. The Planck oscillators, the smallest known units of matter, trillions of times smaller than the proton, act at all of these scales to create mass. So we can visualize our world and ourselves as embedded in this web or lattice of Planck fluctuations, which are communicating across vast universal distances from every one of our protons to the visible surface of the universe. The universe is also spherical or three-dimensional in form. Knowing ourselves as part of this web of life unites everything that is part of our existence and helps us to know that our existence is part of the harmonic and integrated relationship of the whole universe. I think this is what Pythagoras must have learnt from the Egyptian priest astronomers, and that formed the basis of his understanding of the harmony of the universe. But we lost the whole connecting theory that is in this Nassim's theory. The Planck units on the surface of the proton and within it are spherical or toroidal in shape. They can't be touching each other, as if they were placed next to each other on the spherical surface of the proton. This would leave gaps. They intersect with each other in order for them to be packed closely together with no space between. And the solution is shown in the next picture. There's the proton. This is a larger diagram of the proton as shown in the Resonance Academy course. Nassim tried at first to see whether a square lattice would fit over the spherical proton, but it left gaps at the top and bottom. Then he tried the hexagonal form. Note the hexagonal flower-like forms covering the surface of the proton as well as inside it. And this was one of the most important discoveries that he made. But then he needed to find out what the geometrical forms were that were creating the hexagon. And this brought him to the tetrahedron. The resulting triangulating pattern of the overlapping structure of the Planck spherical units generates the pattern of the flower of life, which is a hexagonal pattern containing the tetrahedron geometry within it. This beautiful pattern of the flower of life is the one that covers the surface of the proton as well as the inside. All these diagrams are from the Academy course, by the way. So I didn't know what a tetrahedron was when I started this course, and I looked it up on Google to get the diagram of what it looks like in case there's anybody else here who doesn't know what it looks like. So it's basically a triangle at its base and three triangles forming its sides. So there are four equilateral triangles altogether. Every pyramid that has a triangle at its base is a tetrahedron. So the hexagonal pattern can be expanded infinitely. This was why it's so important, a discovery, increasing the number of spheres on each layer while retaining the hexagonal symmetry and leaving no spaces between the hexagons. When the centers of the spheres are connected, a triangulation pattern appears based upon a hexagonal symmetry. And this triangulating pattern leads us to the tetrahedron. So this is Nassim's statement. He says the tetrahedron is the fundamental shape of the physical universe, from the microscopic level of the atom all the way up to the macroscopic level of the galaxies, on a scale of vibrations in which man stands at about the center. The same patterns repeat at all scales, he found. It's important to understand that patterns are not dependent upon the medium or the scale in which they're found, because the same geometries are found in molecular and crystalline structures, as well as in vast cosmological scales in galactic superclusters. Although the scale and the material construct have changed, the fundamental underlying geometry is the same. And he gave this diagram to show this. So in the middle we have a carbon molecule, on the left a hurricane, and on the right a galaxy, and they all have that same sort of spiraling pattern. It appears that the 64-based quantitative value is of primary importance in the fundamental geometric structure of the unified field, and how that field manifests from its implicate or pre-manifest order to its explicate or manifest order. I was reminded of the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. 64 tetrahedra, forming a star tetrahedron, is what is called the vector equilibrium by the Resonance Academy, based on the discoveries of a mathematician and engineer called Buckmaster Fuller, whose work had a great influence on Nassim. He suddenly put two and two together on the basis of Buckmaster Fuller's discoveries before him. Buckmaster Fuller was a fascinating man. He was about to commit suicide, thinking that life held nothing for him, when he heard a voice saying, "The universe needs you. Don't do it." So he stayed and developed his extraordinary work, which I didn't know about till I came to the Resonance Academy. So this basic form can be expanded to any scale, from the quantum Planck level to the galactic level. And this is called, the central design there of the lines is called a cube octahedron. The shape formed by the interconnecting lines is called a cuboctahedron and is formed of interlocking tetrahedra within a basic hexagonal pattern. This pattern is potentially infinite in extension. For those of you who are not familiar with this geometrical shape, as I was, a cuboctahedron has 8 triangular faces and 6 square faces. And here it is again, more clearly visible. So this is the geometric structure that is at the center or core of the star tetrahedron. And conceptually, it's the stable core geometry of what is called the zero-point field or quantum vacuum or unified field. So this is the basic geometrical shape. It's so beautiful and so, I don't know, just amazing really. Now, Nassim showed this in a video, and I can't do that myself. So he was faced with a problem when he had a tetrahedron structure or array that had cavities within it. He puzzled and puzzled about what to do to complete it so that the cavities were filled. Then, I can't show it what he did, but he fitted one into the other. Then he had the idea of putting an identical inverted polarized array of tetrahedra into the other one with the cavities, so that the two would fit within a perfect sphere to attain a stable geometric structure. And the results were absolutely staggering, and he communicates his excitement in that video. Nassim found to his astonishment that the negative cavities from the inverted second polarized array fitted perfectly into the negative spaces of the first one, as if the male metric was waiting for its female counterpart to achieve balance and completion. Furthermore, the core section of the polarized matrix formed a cuboctahedron. He nearly jumped up and down when in the video and he was showing it with his excitement. So here is the geometric shape when 32 positive and 32 negative tetrahedra fit together to form a total of 64 and what is called a star tetrahedron. And this gives another image of the completed star tetrahedron. Compare the interlocking triangles of the Star of David, visualized in 3 dimensions instead of 2. And I think you may just be able to see the cuboctahedron at the center. It is this central geometric shape which gives stability to the whole structure. And this is the star tetrahedron and its reflection as the flower of life pattern. That is on the internet, by the way. And here again is the basic and exquisite pattern of the fundamental geometric structure of matter. And here is an image that has been burnt into the wall of the Temple of Osiris at Abydos in Egypt by some unknown method. It's not drawn on, it's sort of burnt on in some way. And here is Leonardo's drawing of the flower of life. So he got there before we did. He really must have understood this, must have been looking for it. And here is a crop circle with the same basic design, although not so complete as what I've shown you. So coming to the end now, I have this quote from a friend of mine called Ravi Ravindra in a wonderful book he wrote called Science and the Sacred. Maybe some of you know it. He says, "The one central insight into truth to which all Indian wisdom points is the oneness of all that exists. Although the truth is easily stated as all is one, the sages have also said that the realization of this truth in the core of one's being can take many lifetimes. And the realization of this truth is held to be the purpose of human existence. The realization of this truth is held to be the purpose of human existence. All art, philosophy, and science, if they are true, reflect this vision and further its realization." This truth was known at least 6,000 years ago to the great sages and seers of India, and it was definitely known in Egypt as well. Through the emerging science of unified physics, a new cosmology is being born, a new vision of our profound relationship with an intelligent, living, and interconnected universe. Unified physics shows the holistic nature of the universe. Everything and everyone is connected to the whole. There is no such thing as inanimate matter. We can't separate consciousness from matter, or matter from the pulsing electromagnetic field of light that is the ground of the universe. The process of evolution is an extraordinary expansion of information or consciousness that has led to the human being on this planet who can begin to look back at the whole evolutionary process from which we've come. Through conscious empathic connection, we can begin to attune our consciousness with the underlying presence of this field. Can you feel its presence in this room that we're all part of? 2,400 years ago, Plato said that the universe is a single living creature that encompasses all living creatures within it. Today, we are seeing a profound shift from a non-living view of the universe to a view that regards the universe as stupendously alive and stupendously conscious in every part of itself. The insights from this new science are validating an emerging paradigm that regards the universe as a unified organism that is sustained by phenomenal amounts of energy, and whose essential nature includes consciousness or a self-reflective capacity that enables systems at every level of existence to evolve and to exercise some freedom of choice. This is Nassim's words. "The energy of divine aliveness pours through and sustains the entire universe. Awakening to our identity as cosmic as well as planetary beings, intimately connected to all life in a living universe, could transform the feelings of existential loneliness and species arrogance that threaten our future. We now have the science to change the world view, and that is amazing. Those are my words. So a living universe invites us to move from feelings of indifference, fear, and acquisitiveness to feelings of love, awe, and participation. Our life is a gift from the universe, and how we choose to live it is a gift to the universe. We do not live a meaningless existence on this planet. We are on a sacred journey of discovery. We are discovering our identity as both earthly and cosmic beings. After nearly 14 billion years of evolution, we stand upon the earth as agents of self-reflective and creative action at a time of great transition for the entire earth community. So I thought I'd end with these beautiful words of Aurobindo and the image of the phoenix, which is life reborn from the ashes of the old paradigm. If it be true that spirit is involved in matter and apparent nature is secret God, then the manifestation of the divine in himself and the realization of God within and without are the highest and most legitimate aim possible to man on earth. Thank you very much. Thank you. I feel very proud to have given this talk at the end of my life. It's proven everything I've written in my book. I shall die happy.